Thank you. I'd just like to join in with the words of thanks that have just been expressed, Madam Chair. Thanks also to Raphael Glucksmann. We have had a relationship based on trust throughout our discussions, which have led to the result obtained yesterday. I think it's a historic importance. I think we need to see where we've come from, the point of departure, which was ours. The Tanguy-style Europe that Raphael Glucksmann mentioned just a while ago. 79% of our armaments and military equipment was purchased outside the EU last year. Some 63% from the EU. Those are Commission figures. Those figures, as we know, are not the consequence of the absence of a defence industrial base. We have a trade surplus. We have a sort of a strong industry. We're exporting throughout the world. But those figures are the result of a choice that for too long was that of dependency, where Europe collectively has had its security rest on others. And it's that toxic and rather dangerous dependency, the effects of which we're seeing today, that we now must leave behind us. Of course, we believe in the Atlantic Alliance. We believe in the need for Europe to have strong allies. But if the US are our allies, they're not our sovereign, nor are we their vassal. And so this situation of dependency has led to the situation of concern, which is ours today. And in negotiations that are taking place as we speak, Europe hasn't the voice that it should have to talk about Europe's security within the European continent. So given that, with EDIP, we have a unique opportunity to reverse the trend. 79% of our armaments purchased from outside the EU. Henceforth, armaments will be purchased only if, in terms of joint procurement, if it's made up of 65% of the European components. We're not talking about extra European licensing. This is an important point that Raphael mentioned just. If we're talking about our armaments that have been sort of designed or over which Europeans would exercise control. So these results we owe to all those who have been mobilized in recent months. The Commission that came forward with a proposal a couple of years ago now, but also Council. And I think we can assume responsibility with pride for the fact that we have had a decisive role in terms of design of the EDIP program and result obtained yesterday. I recall only a few months ago there were many who spoke out and said you will never bring it off. Europeans would never agree to autonomy in terms of defence industrial capacity. Extra European powers or powers outside Europe that are will never agree, even with the limited amounts or a program that is sort of just an embryo of any future program. I think we have proven them wrong. I think we were up against considerable resistance, but in spite of that, I think the result that we obtained yesterday, it's not been just a sort of a walk in the park, certainly. It has been the subject of much wrangling. In recent months, we've had to meet with resistance, concern, anything that could intimidate Europe or European countries in terms of their want to throw off any sort of a yoke and assume responsibility for their own defence. And I think if we've arrived where we are in terms of control over design, if there are no sort of exemptions that undermine the very principle of Europe assuming responsibility for its own defence, it's because Parliament has thrown its weight into the balance and sort of almost comma by comma, word by word, we've been able to defend our position and entrust to industrialists in Europe, the armed forces in Europe, to give them the possibility to take forward this mission, and sovereignty, freedom depends on it to a large extent. So this isn't a point of arrival, it's more a point of departure. And I think with Raphael and with all members of Parliament who've supported us in our ambition through their vote, we share the desire that EDIP becomes a matrix for any other steps in the defense industry sector. With EDIP, and SAFE, there'll be funding, third-party funding. Unfortunately, that will not be enough in order to take up the challenge when it comes to our collective rearmament. Now, the Parliament and the Commission need to ensure that this rule that we've defined together becomes a paradigm, a matrix that will govern any future instruments in the defense industrial sector. There's been so much tension, difficulties encountered. It's because we're not talking about 1.5 billion euros, what we were defining with the future of any European rules in terms of Europe's defence. And now that we've done this together with the Council and Commission, we're not going to start from scratch again when it comes to designing future projects in the defence sector. I think we've got to start where we ended with the ambitions underpinning the EDIP programme. EDIP is a demonstrator and has to be scaled up when it's shown how successful it is. I think it's in the interest of European defence security and the future of our freedoms.